Well, if it's Friday morning, it is time for the About Mansfield Consumer Advice Series. I'm Steve Casillo, and we appreciate you being here today. You are either watching live on Facebook, or you are watching the video on YouTube or LinkedIn, or you are listening to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Whatever it may be, again, we appreciate you being here today. And as we do every Friday, it's time to talk about your money, your income, your retirement, your 401k, your IRA, your CDs, or your wealth. And we always, right over there, over my left shoulder, right here in the studio, is Phillip Washington Jr. Welcome. Say hello to the audience.
How's it going, audience? Thanks for having me.
Do you know how to solder?
I have no clue.
We had a conversation off the air before going live today, and about some of the technical part of the studio, and part of it is like right up in here is a connector where the wires are soldered together, and we were talking about jargon, this being a language that people who are into electronics understand, but also how this applies to the financial world, that there is jargon within the financial world that, say, I don't understand. And that's the way that you started off your podcast on why recessions might be good, in that with a language that the average person, the average investor may not understand.
Yeah, we had a conversation with a friend, and we were talking about recessions, and she was about my age, and we had a long conversation about investing, recession, short term, long term, and she, from my perspective, fully understand it. And then 2 days later, she sent me a YouTube video about like a recession's coming, and I was repeating what I was saying, but I still sensed that she was still, like, she was saying she was good, but I sensed an unease.
Yeah.
And then I realized, oh, wait a minute, like, her perspective of a recession is like 2008, right? That's when all of us like graduated. And I had to explain, oh no, 2008 is not like a recession. That's a depression. That's like when the financial system blows up, which happens, once in an investor's life, in an investor's investing lifetime.
Yeah.
I said, and that's different from a recession, which a recession is just, from the technical definition, negative growth in the economy for like a couple of quarters, which is like, it's the difference between getting shot by a shotgun or a BB gun, right? Big difference in what they are. And so, a lot of people who are reading about the recession are getting unnecessarily worried from my point of view, because this is not a '08 type deal. This is just a normal recession, which happens on average every 5 years, right? Versus once every 40 or 50 years.
Right. I heard this the other day, where is this recession, if we are headed into a recession, is this recession going to cause another housing bust like 2008? And the general consensus that I was reading was that the housing bust is what caused the recession in 2008. And if this were the case in 2022, the recession will not cause a housing bust. You see what I mean? Because it was backwards. The housing bust is what caused the recession of 2008. The recession of 2022 is not a result of a housing bust, and as a result of that is not going to cause a housing bust.
So 2008 was a housing. Think of the housing bust like, from a financial person. The housing bust is like a cough, right? A cough is not a cold. A cough is a symptom of the cold.
Yeah.
Right. The cold, or the reason for the '08, was the financial system dying. Right. So you have the cycle of life is like life and death: winter, summer, spring, and fall. Right. And so we experience it. Nature experiences it. The universe experiences it. Everything, like, nothing in the physical world is like immune from the natural cycle of life and death. And so financial systems are the same way. So what happened in '08 was the financial system died, right? And the symptom was the housing market blew up, banks almost blew up, like companies almost starved of finance to death, right? That was what happened in '08. And um, what we're in right now, the opportunity, this is a rebuilding of the current of a new system, right? It's like when you have a gangster movies where you have a vacuum of power, right? There's a vacuum of power because a new system is being built, and this is what's happening. And so you are correct in the sense that this recession, from my perspective, is not going to create a housing bust because it's not the same thing. It's not a blow up in the financial system. The financial system is a new one's being rebuilt currently. This is just a slowdown of economic growth, which is natural and normal. And actually, we were already in the process of slowing down and getting into a recession before COVID hit. Because 29, a lot of folks that are not into finance didn't see the 2019 numbers, and it was like looking bad. COVID happened, and everything froze up, and they dropped in all this money in the system, and so we avoided these recessions in the numbers, but they're coming through. But it's not, there's not going to be a housing bust. It's just a slowing down.
And then the other thing that I've heard and I've read that the recession, this kind of goes along with why recessions might be good, is that the smart investors are stockpiling their money in anticipation of a recession, because during a recession, stock market goes down, and that's when they start investing so that when it comes back up, they're making money. Is that, again?
Yeah. So it's two. So Jason and I did an episode on it. And so the ones that are stockpiling and raising cash, there's like two markets. There's a private market and there's a stock market, liquid market. Private, they work a little bit different. Private markets are slower. And so a lot of investors that invest in private businesses or real estate are stockpiling cash because like it takes a while for this stuff to hit the private markets. But the stock market anticipated this recession because it's been falling for a while. As a matter of fact, I was telling a client, Bitcoin, which is the new for new investors that understand risk on, risk off, right?
Yeah.
It used to be the S&P that would lead the recession numbers, and it would go down, and then 8 months later, they'd say, "Oh, we're in a recession." Well, Bitcoin dropped like a year ago, so Bitcoin is the better indicator for risk on, risk off in the new financial world because it is the foundation of the new financial world being built. And so I'm saying that to say the market anticipated the recession already before the numbers came out. So stock market, you can't really use the headlines to make a decision. For my clients, I've been saying, hey, listen, like right now is the time to like, if you have any extra cash, if you're making money, like dump that into the market. Definitely don't freeze up, right? But keep doing what you're doing. And if you have extra cash, invest extra cash, right? Because this is the time where you're going to like look back and say, and from my perspective, look back and say, I wish I would have done more. I wish I would have bought more. I wish I would have bought more, Tesla stock. I wish I would have bought more ARK innovation ETFs. I wish I would have bought more Bitcoin, right? I wish I would have, because like, the recession creates an opportunity for those who are frozen up and fearful to say, "Hey, you can have this stuff for cheap because I'm scared, I'm nervous."
Yeah, and this is when some investors panic, and and this is the one piece of advice: don't sell. Correct?
Don't sell.
Not during a recession.
Not during a recession. Not at all. Because you got to have a long-term farm. Like I think on other podcasts, I said, think about it this way: go look at a 20-year-old. And then think, what assets are the 20-year-old going to want to buy from me when they're 35 and they have money in their pocket? They're not going to want to, I don't want to pick on any companies,
Yeah.
but they're not going to want to buy what you consider safe today. They're not going to want to buy cash and bonds at 35. They're going to want to own, right, the stocks that ARK ETF own. They're going to want to own Tesla. They're going to want to own Facebook. They're going to want to own Zoom. They're going to want to own Spotify because they are the companies that are building the new world. They're gonna want to own Bitcoin, right? All the things that people thinking in the old world mindset are afraid of or nervous of. Like they're gonna want to own that because that's normal to their world today, right? So like think in that terms, and then you're like, oh, I'm definitely not going to sell because I want to sell to the 35-year-old.
Yeah. If someone wanted to reach out to Phillip Washington Jr., if they had some questions about the pending recession and what to do with their money, how can they reach out to Phillip?
Best way is my website, stonehillwealthmanagement.com, has a link to my podcast, my email, phone number, and even a link to book a time if you're interested in having a no-cost obligation consult.
Phillip Washington Jr., appreciate you being here. Let's do this again next week.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me.